hoping is that we can make it part of comprehensive immigration reform. That if we can put it as part of the larger bill, we'll have more success than if we just have a standalone vote. You know, my husband is not American. My husband is English. And so I've been through this country's immigration process to get him a green card, and it is a very, very difficult process. And I can't imagine how horrible it is to know that my spouse or my loved one could be taken away at any moment or sent home, and that I would have to follow if I wanted to be with them. For any family to have to go through that and that fear, I think it's awful. And I'm going to be a very strong proponent for getting it part of comprehensive immigration reform. Now, Senator Schumer is writing the bill. So we have an ally in Senator Schumer on comprehensive immigration reform here in this state. So, you know, we should all work with his team to try to make this be part of the bill. And I think on timing, I would suspect we could do this maybe in the winter or spring. Healthcare has just taken so long, it's pushed the whole timeline for everything else back. But if we get healthcare passed by the holidays, we can then put energy on the table probably in December, and then maybe get that passed by January. So you could possibly put immigration on the table by January or February with the goal of trying to get a vote by March. Past March, it becomes a political hot potato, and we probably will be less successful. But if we can get it before March, I think there's still hope it could be done, you know, in the next 9 months.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Jim Morat. I want to speak up
louder. Can't hear you, Jim.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Jim Morat. I'd like to thank you for the positions you've taken today. But I'm concerned in two areas. One is with seniors, and I'm glad to see that you're on a committee that deals with seniors in general, and also the particular needs of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender seniors. Social Security increases were denied this year without very little protest in the Senate. And I wondered if you would ever let that happen again.
Say that? What?
So, cost of living increase.
There was no cost of living adjustment. I wrote a letter to make sure we could have that because I think it's important for our seniors. It was something that actually my uncle lobbied me on from upstate New York. He brought it to my attention and said, what's going on? Why are we not funding Social Security at the same level? And it was exactly that. They didn't approve a cost of living adjustment. But I'm trying to push back on that.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender seniors have particular problems, particularly because the population at the age that they are used to being positive, used to being discriminated against, and used to not speaking up.
Right.
The younger activists that's a change. But I would like to see someone in the Senate, particularly on the committee, begin to articulate how this particular population, with its diverse complexity of color, race, and economic conditions, how they are seen, have special needs, and need to be addressed, not just in the recent statement, but that it needs to be a policy that is stamped and continued.
So maybe we can work on this together. Could you give your email and phone number to my counsel, Michelle Giwando? Here, Michelle, can you? Yeah, so we can work on that, because that's not something I know a lot about, so let's develop what that advocacy should be.
Somebody this side in the back. Yes.
Orange, it's not pink.
Your husband, what about your father and your grandmother? They seem to come from the line. Your father was a lobbyist.
Sorry, start again?
You talked about your uncle. You mentioned your husband. And what about your father, who was a lobbyist, and and your grandmother, who apparently was very connected to the mayor of Albany? What about all that? There seemed to be a lot of corruption in that background. Can you address it?
My grandma, that's so not nice. She's nice. She's even dead. It's like, that's okay. So, my grandmother actually was quite a role model for me because, for those who don't know, the reason why I got interested in politics at all was because I grew up in a family that was a political family. My grandmother loved politics. She never went to college. She was a secretary in the state legislature in Albany, and you got to imagine 60 years ago, almost all the elected representatives were men and all the secretaries were women. And women had very little political power. I mean, you really have to imagine the only woman who had any political power in New York State at the time was Eleanor Roosevelt, who was campaigning all across the state for her husband who was running for governor. And So for whatever reason, my grandmother developed this passion for politics. She wanted to be involved, she wanted to have a say, she wanted to elect candidates who cared about her issues, and what she did is exactly what the LGBT community does, which is she organized. And she organized all the women, and she got the women in the legislature to form a club. They became the Women's Democratic Club, and these women truly ran elections for the next 50 years. And I can tell you, I'd spend every fall putting bumper stickers on cars, passing out leaflets, stuffing envelopes in her basement with tables full of ladies. And I really developed a great appreciation, not only for public service, but for advocacy, that you really have to put your issues out there. You've got to fight for what you believe in, because if you don't, no one's going to fight for you. And so that's what developed my interest in public service as a very young girl. And it's one of the reasons why I ultimately decided to run for office. My mother was also a trailblazer in her own right. She was one of 3 women in her law school class. And it was very good for women back then, going out there. And she has a lot of stories. Like, she was typically referred to by one of the first judges she appeared before, referred to her as Little Lady. And the best story that she tells is when she was asked, she was giving birth to my brother when she had to take a criminal law final on the day she was giving birth. And so her professor was very progressive and told her, okay, fine, you don't have to take the exam on the day you're giving birth, but you do have to take it on the next day. So she's sitting taking this exam the day after she gives birth. So I come from a long line of strong women. And she did very well on that exam, by the way, apparently. But my political roots and my family is very important to me. And, you know, very few women run for office, as you know. We only have 17% in the Senate, 17% in the House. And it's largely because politics is so nasty. It's a very nasty and aggressive profession. People go for the jugular. It's a blood sport in some places. It certainly was in upstate New York. And so very few women want to be in that arena. It's not that they don't care about the issues. It's just they don't want to subject themselves to that enormous negativity and the aggressiveness of a political campaign. But because I grew up in a political family, you know, it's just like a kid who wants to go play football. You know, it's a contact sport. You wear the right equipment, and out you go. So it's something that I'm very honored to get to serve and be part of. But I owe it a lot to my mom and to my grandma.